They're pretty separate, like I can't really do material at the office. Um, and I can't adjust people on stage. So
That would be a niche,
yeah,
different kind of crowd work,
yeah,
like
no, it's
on
like
stage.
people are like patients are usually surprised, because I try to be professional. And you get a feel for people's uh, limits and stuff, and
Right.
what. So I just always err on the side of caution and in making jokes with patients.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is the season finale of season 5 of Willfully Funny. This week, my guest is Michael Friedman. Michael is an Ottawa-based chiropractor and comedian, and I'm glad he's here. So thank
I'm
you.
glad to be here.
Thank you for being here, Michael. Before we get started, can you please give us your social media information?
Sure. Yeah, I have one that's more like just personal and comedy related. That's Dr. Dot Michael 71. And the other one is more the chiropractic is the dot essential dot DC. That's all Instagram.
On Instagram. Okay, so I'll include
Yeah, I'm
both
so
of.
bad with my social. You can see, probably I'm like written down, like looking over. What the fuck is my?
No
It
worries.
happens like after shows. People are like, "Oh,
Yeah,
what's your social media?" I'm like, "I don't
I
know."
don't know. Or give me your phone and you look it
Yeah,
up yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I just tell people, yeah, just look for my name. It's a picture
yeah.
of me holding a microphone or something like that. Oh my goodness. So we've known each other for a few years now. We've worked together a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of times. But I don't
Yeah.
know your origin story with comedy. Like how long have you been doing comedy and what got you started?
Yeah. So it's about 10 years that I've been doing it. And it was something I always gravitated towards and felt that I wanted to do. And just never, I guess, had the courage to do it. And like, when I was a kid, we're about the same age.
Hmm.
So I was always watching comedy. There was always evening at the Improv and
Yeah.
and Caroline's Comedy Hour and all these shows, and plus like all like SCTV was like my
Yeah. Yes.
favorite show. So I was always like interested in comedy, and I always found myself like trying to guess punchlines, and some I got right, and sometimes I thought, hey, mine was better. Uh, but yeah, I just never, there were a few times throughout my life where I, tried to write jokes but could never just go and do it. And then, yeah, I don't know, something clicked about 10 years ago. And I went to an open mic and, and I watched and I was like, I could be funnier than three-quarters of these people. So I was like, okay, I'll
Oh
do it.
yeah. Because it's
And
that
yeah,
that
then like
reckoning.
the first it was a Monday night at Absolute Comedy. Uh, and I did well, I think. And and from then on, like I got hooked. So that was it.
Yeah, it's so I find it fascinating how easily addictive it is.
Yeah.
And going, I went to a whole bunch of open mics with another friend who was in that class just to see like can we perform here? Like you know,
Yeah.
can we do it here or
Yeah.
is it too like fancy for us sort of thing. So we went to a whole bunch, and
So
yeah.
when I did, there weren't that many. There weren't a lot of, like, I was kind of the opposite. Like, I was like, where can I go? You know, I just like
Okay.
trying to get on everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I thought, so like I got back on, I think within a couple of months, back on the Monday night at Absolute Comedy. And you know, I was like, okay, I guess now I got to come up with the whole 60 minutes, which I did. Wasn't as good, but then I learned that no, just start with 6 and get that down.
Yeah, and then build from there. Yeah, because I think we're all in the same boat. Like, you think that every time you perform, you have to do new stuff or different stuff. I
Hmm.
remember I thought I was in that, and I was like, oh my God, like, how do you get good? Like, how do you memorize if you're doing new stuff all the time? And then it was after a few times where it's like, no, you do it, you get that down, and then you add to it, you improve on it, and just the whole process. But yeah, I thought I had to come up with new stuff every single time, which was like super stressful. Like,
Yeah,
you know?
because all, like I said, it was like I did pretty well. It was an interesting experience because they said, you get 6 minutes, and so the first time I recorded myself, I was like over 10. Like, it was really wordy. So I, took all this stuff. I got it down to like just under 6. And then I didn't want to tell anybody. I was too shy so I told one friend, and so I asked him if he could drive because I was pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Um, and I probably was going to have a few drinks.
Liquid courage.
And yeah, so I walked over to his, and as I'm walking, I have my phone, and I'm, going through the set and timing it, and it was like 5:40, 5:45. I was like, okay. And then I got there, and so I did it. There was a few ums and ahs in there, but I went 8 minutes. And because I didn't like account that, or people might laugh,
Yeah.
right? I'm just doing like this monologue,
That there's
like,
going to
hey,
be
shut
no
up.
audience reaction.
Shut up. You're cutting into my time with your laughter.
Stop with that laugh, that pesky laughing. I
Yeah.
only have 6 minutes.
So yeah, so I felt good. Like, they weren't like, like pissed off at me or anything. They
Yeah.
understood the first time.
Right.
And so then the second time, I was more within the time, but I didn't get as many laughs because it's like all new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I kept going.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing, to keep going. How do you balance, or do you find the need to balance your professional chiropractic life and your comedy life, or do
Right.
they intertwine, or do you keep them completely separate?
They're pretty separate, like I can't really do material at the office. And I can't adjust people on stage. So
that would be a niche.
yeah.
Different kind of crowd work.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's like people are like, patients are usually surprised, because I try to be professional. You get a feel for, people's limits and stuff, and
right.
what. So I just always, err on the side of caution, and in making jokes with patients.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so I try to keep it professional. So I did have, when I first started, I did do some material, like chiropractic material. And so I'm an independent contractor. So I own my own practice, but I don't own the clinic.
Okay.
And so I did a set at Yuck Yucks, and somebody who was a patient of the owner of the clinic um, complained to
Complained
her, said it was unprofessional, that
that you were doing
that
stand-up?
I did comedy. Yeah, some of my jokes were a little blue or off color, and so she's like, "Oh, it wasn't professional."
You didn't do any jokes about her.
No,
You know what I mean? Like,
no,
oh, she just
yeah,
felt that it was like you shouldn't be doing that.
right.
Wow.
But it's like if I'm like slapping patients on the ass or calling somebody sugar tits in the office or something, that's unprofessional.
Exactly.
What I
That's
do,
frowned upon.
outside the office, that's not illegal.
No, exactly.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah, like I don't talk about work. I don't like I try to keep that as I keep it separate in the sense that I don't talk about stuff that happens at work on
yeah,
stage. Like I might mention that, I have a job outside of comedy or something, but I don't
right.
get into
And there are, sometimes patients say stupid things.
yeah, it's
And I
true.
want to, I'm like, oh, that would be a great joke,
Yes, yes. Yeah, the same
but
thing. Yeah. You can't. You
can't.
just ethically you cannot. Yeah.
No.
It's true. So it's like other than
Also,
like
in my case, legally.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure.
What I happens a lot is like a comedian will come up to me at a show or something. Is like, wanting me to diagnose and fix them in the
Right
green
there.
room. You know, yeah, I got this problem with my shoulder. Like, can you?
And it's when you're like, you need to make an appointment. I can't
Yeah,
diagnose you here like this. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because the job that I have, it doesn't intersect that way. It's like people at work know that I'm a comedian and people have come to see me perform and
hmm,
everything. But I know one thing that I'm very strict on is I don't, even though like there are things that could be like hilarious, like you said, this would make an awesome bit. I don't.
right.
I don't
You're
do it.
government.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's there's probably some
You don't work for
legality there as well.
CSIT. They are.
No, no, I don't. Well, I wouldn't tell you if I worked for C6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just um yeah, I err on the side of caution and just don't make any specific references um to what I
Right.
do, just yeah,
Yeah.
because
When
there's
I
value in
do,
ethics and stuff like that. So mhm.
when I have done, chiropractic material, one of the things I say is that the reason I do comedy is because I am a smart ass and I need the outlet.
It's true.
So,
That's true. That's true. That's true. Other than the woman who complained to the
right.
the clinic owner, have you had any uh other like kind of controversies with like people
Um,
saying
no, I mean, there was, patients have come to shows, certain ones I probably won't, I don't tell. Uh, um, but yeah, I get there was one who was interested in coming, and maybe I'm uh, making meaning out of it, but she didn't come back after she came to my show. So that was it. Um, but other than that, no, there's hasn't been any controversy.
Okay,
And
that's good.
vice versa, like any comedians who come to come to me for care, haven't avoided me at shows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you ever, because the first show, like that showcase, I was so nervous beforehand, and after performing, I was just like on adrenaline. Like I didn't sleep for like two
Yeah.
days. I was like wide awake and just in the moment, but not in the moment at the same time. And I vaguely
Hmm.
remember it was the end of the show, and I was just standing there like vibrating. Like, I can't believe I did this. And I remember this man walking towards me, and I remember thinking, oh, he's not ugly. I remember thinking that, and he came up to me and he was like, oh, that was great, it was a lot of fun. And I was like, oh, thanks so much. And then he said, because he referenced one of the jokes that I had
Yeah.
at that time, and he said something along like, oh, I'm sure you're asked your phone number a lot. And I was like, oh, no, no. And he's like, oh, really? I'm sure people, men are always asking you for your phone number. And I was like, no. I'm like, thanks for coming. And I left. And it wasn't till hours later, when I was home and just like finally coming down, that I was
Processing.
like, oh my God, I missed it completely. And it looked like I just blew him off. But I was so like, I didn't even register that
Right.
he was like like trying to flirt with me and stuff like that, that I was like, thanks for coming. And I left. Has anything like that happened for
Um,
you?
Probably. I
But
can't
you
think of
missed it too.
anything that stands out. Like I know it's gotten better where like even like when comedians come up to me after my set, like I'm just like, as you said, like the adrenaline is so high, and like I can't talk to people. Like people like good set. I'm like, oh, thanks, yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm
thanks.
just like,
You're on autopilot
um,
almost after, yeah.
yeah. So I need to sort of like go by myself and decompress for a few minutes. I find that's it's less now, uh, but it was probably, yeah, at the beginning after for quite some time.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure uh, stuff like that
Has
has
happened.
happened. I think like there was, so I have this tremor for people watching. It's not because I'm nervous. And so I've had people come up to me after like this one I remember. Uh, she wasn't flirting, but she's like, "Yeah, that was so great that you can talk about that. My dad has Parkinson's." And I was just like, "Oh, that's cool." I wasn't like, "Oh, sorry to hear that,"
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Okay.
he's just like, "Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
thanks."
cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. And
Oh
probably
my.
the same thing. I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta go. I think I can be sort of awkward, in the best of times.
Same, same.
So when you add that adrenaline, it just like amplifies it.
Exactly. Like it's gotten better for me, like with
Hmm.
experience in doing it more. I don't feel as awkward, but I know um when I come home from a show, like no matter like how well it went, or if it didn't go
Yeah.
well or it went well, like regardless of what happened, I can't go to bed right away. It's like hours later. So there's still
Yeah,
some kind of buzzing. Yeah.
yeah, that used to be the same for me, but it's
Mhm.
that settled down.
Has it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It still hasn't settled down for me. Like it's I'll get home. Like usually the average, like the typical evening would be like I'll get home at whatever time, And I might be physically tired, like I could be like, I am tired, but my brain's like, no, we're still awake. We're still awake. And so
Yeah.
like I'll have to do something. So I'll like, edit my video, or I'll watch something on TV just to
Yeah.
decompress. And then I end up passing out on the couch like 4 hours later. But
Are
it's
you like are you like decompressing the show? Like, what went good, what went wrong, or
a little bit of everything, a little bit of everything. Like
yeah.
if it's, as I think we all are, we're all like super critical of ourselves, and because we know our material so well, it's like, oh, I forgot to say this, or I should have said it like that, or whatever it is. Like we dissect ourselves. So I do a lot of that on the way home.
Right.
And it's not until I like watch my video or listen to, like, if I used to record my audio separately, and I could listen to it in the car on the way home, and I'd be like, okay, that was better than I thought, or ooh, that's worse than I thought, or whatever the case is. So a lot of it is because I feel like I almost like I black out on stage, like I don't hear properly, or
Yeah.
I don't see things. And so it's until I look at the video that it's until I watch the video that I could get like the true scope of how it went, of how the set
Right.
went, because it feels like everything's muted when I'm on stage, sort of thing.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
that again, like I had that initially as well. And I used to
yeah.
say it was like it was almost like that Will Ferrell in Old School, when he does the debate and he just
Yes.
kind of blacks out and
Exactly.
crushes the debate.
And
And he's like,
I can't
what
remember.
happened?
Yeah, like there are a few times where it's like I have like perfect clarity on stage, that it's like I know, like I can hear properly, I can see properly, it feels, I can feel it.
Yeah.
So I do have moments like that, but most of the time it's almost muted, that I'll get off the stage and I'll be like, it was okay. I think it was okay. And then I'll watch it back and it was like, okay, that was good. Or, that the crowd reacted really well. Or, I missed them laughing on that. I missed the reaction. Couldn't
Right.
hear their reaction to this particular thing while I was on stage,
There's a really great book called Flow. The author's name is one I can't pronounce.
Okay.
I think he's Polish. Um, Anyhow, it's that's what it talks about, um, when musicians or athletes are in the zone, it's called flow, where like everything sort of slows down and you're just you're able to focus and
Yes.
um,
And do what you need to do. Yeah.
yeah.
Because
So I found
that's an
there's
interesting
been,
thing.
when you have that really great set, and it's like everything is flowing.
Right. Right.
And you're
And I
kind of
think one of the
zoned out to
biggest
what's
things,
going on.
right. And I know for me, it was slowing down.
Yeah.
Slowing down, because I think that it was just like also inexperience and being new and everything, that it was like, I only have 6 minutes. I got to get all this
Yeah.
material in like X amount of time. And, you're just rushing through it. And I'd say over the last year, yeah, maybe year and a bit, like I've made like a conscious effort to slow down. And slowing
Right.
down means that maybe I'll have to cut one or two bits out to still stay in my time frame. But
Yeah.
like I find when I slow down and pause and like listen, because I know like a few people had told me, you start talking, they're still laughing, and you
Right.
start talking, like you're stepping on the
On the
laughs,
laughter.
like
Yeah, I
yeah,
got that advice
yeah,
too.
I got that advice. And it's like I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, because I was just like focused on, I have X amount
Right.
of time, I got to get through it, I don't want to go over, I want to do all these jokes, sort of thing. And I think like it was experience and some wisdom, some experience and stuff like that to like make a conscious decision to like slow down and
Yeah.
take pauses and and I've found that the quality of my stand-up has improved, and like
Hmm.
my confidence on stage and just my delivery and everything really improved by slowing down,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're like one of the best at recording yourself. Like you're like,
that
it's, no,
that
it's
yeah,
good.
that
Like
helped a lot
I'm
too.
horrible at
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
don't do it enough. I think I find like I'm probably too self-critical. So
Well, the
I'll
thing
like,
is, it wasn't easy. Like I'm used to it now.
yeah,
Like it doesn't phase me anymore. But when I first started, hearing
yeah,
my voice, hearing my own voice and seeing my
hmm,
image was like, it was
yeah,
very uncomfortable.
exactly.
It was very uncomfortable. It was like, that's what I sound like. That's what I look like. Oh,
That
yeah, it
joke
was,
wasn't funny.
yeah,
That's what.
exactly.
So the laugh sounded bigger on stage.
Yeah, I thought they should have laughed more,
Yeah,
But yeah, that was something like I've done right from day
yeah.
one. Like I have my very first, I have virtually every performance I've ever done. I think
Wow.
minus one, that was a Zoom show. And I remember asking the producer, can I record? And he said, oh, I'll be recording it, no problem. And I was up first and he was like, I forgot to hit record. And I remember feeling rage. I was so upset. But yeah, so I was the only one of the whole show who didn't get a recording because
Right.
he had forgotten, and he recorded after
Did
my set.
did did you do a lot of Zoom shows? That
I did.
did you? I
I did a
didn't, but I
ton.
guess that you were just starting. So
Yeah, like when the pandemic hit, I'd been doing it maybe 6 months, barely
hmm,
6 months. And I think I had maybe 10 to 15 sets under my belt by the
right.
time the pandemic. So I was like very, very new, very,
Hmm.
very new. And I remember, I think from that first thing in September of 19 until like December, I think I had done three or five shows. And
Okay.
then January
So
to when things shut down, I was doing more.
when did you do your the course?
I did the course August. Yeah, I think it was mid-August of 2019
Okay.
because the showcase was end of September of 19.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do any Zoom.
No,
I
none?
guess I just took, I was almost
Like a
I think I did
break.
one show because everything was shut down for like about 6 months, I think. And then in the summer, stuff opened up. And I
Yes.
did one show, and then that was it. And I didn't do it. It was probably a good year before I
Really?
did did another show.
Like I pivoted right away to, because I think it was like a couple of weeks before like Zoom stuff started
Hmm.
popping up, because I know people were doing it on Facebook Live, which was weird because it's one sided, it's not interactive. So you would say
Right.
something and then there's a delay, and then maybe you'll get a laugh emoji after, sort of thing. But you couldn't hear, it was all you were just reciting stuff
Right.
to the cameras. And I think like Zoom started to be a thing, or Skype. I think it was Skype for a bit and then Zoom took over.
Hmm.
Maybe a month or two. It was a little bit, yeah, because we were locked down, everything shut down in March. I want to say maybe
Right.
May or June, something like that, when they started popping up. And I know for myself, because I was so new into it and just getting like my feet, like my legs into it, I didn't want to lose momentum. So I
For
pivoted
sure.
right
Yeah, it makes
away.
sense.
Yeah, because I was like, I just want to keep going and keep learning. I don't know if I could do that now, or it would. I think I would still do Zoom show. Like if it happened again, I would still do Zoom shows just to keep doing it. but I
Hmm.
think it would be a harder pivot.
Yeah.
I think it would be a harder pivot. I think because I was so new, and I'd only had a handful of shows under my belt, that moving to Zoom was relatively easy. And the fact I didn't want to lose the connections and the momentum. And I think I I think I did over 100 Zoom shows.
Wow.
I
Holy
did a
shit.
ton. I did
Yeah.
a ton. Like some days I did like 2 or 3 Zoom shows. I did Zoom
I
shows.
didn't
There was
even
one.
know there were that many
There were
going on.
so many. Yeah, there were
Yeah.
so
Like I just
many. Yeah,
stepped back from comedy
altogether. Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, no, I,
There's
I I
a,
dove in, and I've met a lot of people,
yeah.
that I met online, I've met in real life,
Hmm.
but yeah, I did
So they
shows
weren't
all over.
just Ottawa based shows then.
No, I did shows all over. I did shows based out of the States. I
Oh,
did shows based out of Europe. I think one of the first big shows I did was based out of Israel.
hmm.
And it was like with the time zones and everything, there was people all
Yeah.
over the world. And I think my slot was at 3 in the morning or something. You know? And it was like this. Yeah, it was a strange setup. Like it was just going on. Like it was like some 24-hour show. I can't remember if it was a fundraiser or
Huh.
something, but it was just this marathon. And you would message and say, "Oh, I'd like a spot," and they're like, "Okay, it's at 2 p.m. Jerusalem time," and you're like, "Okay, what's that in Ottawa time?" "Oh, 3 a.m. Okay." Yeah. And I'd go on, and for a while I was doing a show every week that was based out of
Wow.
California.
Yeah.
It was like a Sunday morning. um yeah, I was just on that one. I did that one every week. And yeah, I did a whole lot. I did a whole lot,
Oh,
and
good for
it
you though.
it
That's,
helped. It really helped me, so that
yeah.
by the time like a few months later, when stuff started to open up, I like hit the ground running, because
Hmm.
I'd learned a lot of stuff too, just by um doing it. I learned a lot about the biggest thing I learned was like silence, like how to deal with silence. Because when I first started, like if a joke didn't land, I would panic. I'd panic and
Yeah.
I'd start
You kind of
laughing.
freeze.
Yeah, it's like you're like, "Oh God, oh God," and ha 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 ha. You start laughing to fill the air, like
To
um
show them how it's done.
yeah, yeah,
Do this,
exactly.
do this.
Do this, like mimic me. That's one of the biggest things I learned on on Zoom, was like to deal with the distractions
Yeah.
of people not paying attention, or you're not sure if people are paying attention or even there, because everyone had their camera and or microphone off, sort of
Right.
thing. So you don't know if they were even in front of their computer, and silence and all of that. So I learned a lot of things doing like pandemic
So
comedy. Yeah.
like what did you get for feedback from people watching the show?
Um they use the comments, they use the chat, like in Zoom, they'd use
Okay.
the chat.
Yeah.
Um if they kept their microphones on, we could hear them laughing,
All right.
things like that. I know I was producing an online show for a little bit, and I would encourage people to, at least have their microphones on, because we wanted to hear. I said, like, we
Hmm.
need to hear the laughter. Like that's if you don't want to put your camera on, that's fine, but please try and keep your microphone open,
The
unless you're
audio.
like vacuuming or something. Just that, because we need that. That's how we know our stuff is working, is if we could
Right.
hear the laughter or not hear the laughter, sort of thing. So yeah, so I learned a lot. That I think has fared me well since things have opened up, that I probably would not have learned had things
Hmm.
progress. I might have learned them eventually,
Right.
but I don't think I think I was like, it was accelerated. I think like my progress and my growth and experience was accelerated during the
Hmm.
pandemic, just because I did so much of it,
No, that's great. Yeah, because
yeah.
for me, as I said, like I did, there's about a year in between, right? So
Mm.
sort of like, timing was off, and I didn't. I had to, like, do I remember my set?
Yeah. And
To
that's
sort
the
of
thing. And it's like I can appreciate, because we didn't know what was happening, because we didn't know how long we'd be, quarantined, how long things would be closed down and everything. And
right.
I know
It
part of
wasn't
it.
the 3 weeks they initially
No,
told us.
exactly. That's the thing. It was like, oh, like 3 weeks, everything will be back to normal. Then 3 weeks came and went, and we're,
Yeah.
still under siege or whatever. And I know for myself, at least, I was like, I want to keep going. Like, if however however I need to do this,
Hmm.
um, I want to keep going. You know, and yeah, I think it's fared me well, just in terms of like I started the podcast, which has helped me
Right.
immensely, just with conversation and like on the spot sort of thing. So there are like skills that I learned, but I also appreciate the fact that for some people it was like, no, I can't do it like this. I don't want to do it like
Hmm.
this. I can't do it like this. I'll wait. I'll come back when things are back to normal. Like I can respect and appreciate that, you know.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, and for me, it was like a mental health thing too.
Yeah.
I was like, I finally found this thing that like I'm kind of good at, and I really love doing it, and now it's being ripped away. Like, no, I need to keep doing this. I need to keep doing it somehow. I need to stay with it
Yeah.
somehow.
Well,
Like,
I had separated like right at the beginning of the pandemic, so it was
right.
like extra
Yeah,
extra hard.
stress. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like you probably
but
had
also extra
other.
material I needed to.
Yeah, you got some bits of gold
Yeah, I got
from
to
there. But yeah,
workshop this
that's
stuff.
but yeah, that's the thing. That's another added, more stress,
Yeah.
anxiety, pressure, and an already difficult situation, which just compounded by other
Hmm.
difficult situations. So yeah, like people were under a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure on a lot of people, you
Yeah.
know, that yeah, some things had to take a back seat. But yeah, like there are a bunch of like behind the scenes things that like people were going through that we're not aware of that, because we're not
Yeah.
in each other's homes and stuff. Like, I know people lost parents, relationships ended, things like
Hmm.
that, and it's all navigated under this cloak of we all may die or something. We don't know what's happening. So
Yeah.
it's like I remember hearing in different spheres, just because you know I was just in so many different groups that I would just hear different things. And there were people who were like, oh, you can't just give it up like that. And it's like, yeah, you can't just make a blanket statement like that, because you don't know what people are dealing with.
Right.
You
I,
don't know
I
what's
will
going
say,
on.
like the 3 months, like the initial when it first hit, and the first 3 months when I wasn't working and wasn't doing anything, that was kind of nice. Because it
Yeah, the
was,
first little bit, it's like, oh my.
yeah, it was spring, just going out
Hmm.
for walks whenever I felt like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like a giant reset. Like everyone
Yeah,
was, put on a
almost
timeout sort of thing.
no responsibilities.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't just like, oh, Ottawa. It was like across the world.
Right.
Like we were
Yeah.
all in that boat. Yeah. So there's some there. Yeah, it was strange. It was very
Yeah.
very strange, because I had never experienced anything where the entire world
Hmm.
was like under the same restrictions or quarantine. I never experienced anything like that, like I lived in Toronto during SARS,
Okay. I
you
think
know.
I'm from Toronto, but I think I
Okay.
might have been, uh, I wasn't there. I was either in school, um, didn't, yeah, because I went to school in the States, or I had moved to Vancouver after graduating. So I don't
Yeah.
remember. It was one of those, but I wasn't there. So
Yeah, like I moved to Toronto in, I think it was November of 2002. And
okay.
SARS
So
was
yeah,
like
I was
summer of,
in
you were in the
in
States?
Vancouver then.
Okay. Yeah, and SARS was like that summer.
Right.
And
I
but
had
I was
just
like,
left.
oh, you just left? Because I was
Yeah.
like, I just got here, and like, but it wasn't, there were no to what I can recall, there were no shutdowns. I think there were people who were urged to like stay home if you're not feeling well, but
Hmm.
it wasn't,
It wasn't the same
no, it
extent.
wasn't the same extent. So, um, but I remember like the hospitality industries and stuff like that, like really suffering because people just weren't coming to
Right.
Toronto. And I remember, like, I'm from Montreal, and I remember going home during the summer, like to visit my late parents and my sister, and being in a store with my mom, being in like the Bay, and
Hmm.
I remember the cashier say, "Oh, do you want to enter your name, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, I don't live here." So like put my mom's name. And she's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, Toronto." Or, "Where do you live?" "Oh, Toronto." And people just sort of like scattered from me, sort of thing. you know? It's like
And not the usual reasons people hate people
exactly,
from Toronto.
exactly, But and I know like my family and like my friends were like, if we didn't know you there, if we didn't know like what it was really like because you
Hmm.
lived there, we would have done the same thing. We would have behaved the
Yeah.
same way. But yeah. So you said you grew up in
Grew up in
Toronto.
Toronto.
And how long have you been in Ottawa?
15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Grew up
four
in
and a half.
Toronto, then 6 years in Vancouver, uh, and then yeah, 15 here.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I'm at 4.5 here. Like, I grew up in Montreal, and then
Yeah.
I was in Toronto for 17 years, and then moved to Ottawa in 2019. I still consider, even though I've been here like 4.5 years, I still consider myself new because like for the first 2 years I was here, I was locked down. Like I didn't get
Right.
to. So it's like somebody might say like a location, and I'm like, I don't know where that is. I've never been there,
Yeah.
just because I
It
didn't
took
get.
me like Ottawa to me still doesn't feel like home
Yeah,
after
yeah.
15
I still
years.
feel like, oh, and after 15, okay, yeah,
Yeah. And it took me like probably close to 10 to feel kind of comfortable here.
okay. Like I'm
Yeah.
comfortable. I still feel new. I still feel new
Right.
because depending, I know Ottawa as well as I do just because of comedy, because comedy takes you all
Yeah.
over town to different locations. So
Yeah.
that's how I learned, I learned my way around and stuff like that. But even though I feel I'm very comfortable here,
Hmm.
I still feel like I just got here. It
Well,
still
it's,
feels
I
very
think
new.
because, as you said, like the pandemic, right? Because that
Hmm.
takes
Yes.
3 years off.
Yeah.
Like I have conversation with people or like patients or like, something that happened right before the pandemic just feels like it was like, was that like
20
a
years,
year
20 years
ago?
ago. Yeah, that's the thing. Like the last 3 years, it's like I remember something and it was like, was that last year or 3 years ago or
Yeah.
5? have like my concept of time is all warped, but I think why I feel like I'm still new is, yeah, like at least 2 years were clipped
Yeah,
because I was just in my, like, I worked from home. I was home all the time.
right.
And I just, when I did go out, it was like very local, because we weren't doing long trips or traveling great distances or anything. And it was um like, if anything, like, yeah, I'd go to Montreal or I'd go to Kingston or something when we were able to move. But when I was in Ottawa, I was home. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't venturing all over the place. So I think it
Yeah.
still feels kind of new to me, but like, good stuff has happened. I started comedy here. So,
Yeah, well, that's the thing too.
yeah,
Like if I think about like, oh, I should have stayed in Vancouver, like, would I have
yeah.
started comedy?
Yeah, and I don't think I would have done it in Toronto. Even though, like,
Yeah.
I was thinking about it and everything, and I had like signed up for stuff and like never completed. And I remember having like the distinct thought of, if I were to try it, I'm not inviting anybody and I'm gonna
Hmm.
go like outskirts. I'm gonna go to like Milton and do it, where nobody, where there's no chance of somebody I know seeing me do it, sort of thing, which
Yeah.
was probably a sign of, yeah, you're not ready to do it yet.
Well, that's
Um,
what I did. Well, so when I was 19 or 20, probably 20, uh, me and this friend who used to do like write together, and we wrote all this stuff, and we would go for a good couple of months, like almost every week, we would go to this open mic, but then never, we always chicken out to get up on stage. And then that sort of faded. And
yeah,
um, and then, but same here, like I didn't tell anybody when I started. I told two friends, and that was it.
yeah.
I don't I'd work, I didn't tell for about 6 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then um yeah, I can't remember family. I may have told my immediate family that I had done it, but I didn't, yeah, I
Yeah, you
didn't
kept
want
it
people
close.
to.
Yeah, same. Because the thing is, I remember telling one of my best friends when we were kids, when we were like
Hmm.
14, 15, telling her I want to be a stand-up comedian. And she was like, you'd be really good. Neither of us at the time, she told me this like 40 years later, neither of us at the time knew how that was going to happen, because I was
Right.
painfully shy as a kid. Like, speaking out was just like, just speaking in public was terrifying to me. But so I told her, and like my parents and my sister knew that I was a fan of comedy, because I would
Hmm.
go to comedy shows and watch it on TV and stuff like that. But they didn't know I wanted to do it. And I think I just assumed that they knew that I had told them at some point. But
Yeah.
a few years ago, I interviewed my sister on I think it was like 2 years ago. I interviewed my sister on the podcast, and I said, like, what did you think when I told you that I was doing this course? She's like, if you had given me a list like 500 guesses on like something you were going to try, and or something you were going to do or something you were going to try, she's like, that wouldn't have even been on the list.
Wow.
She was like, I was floored, and she was like, because like my sister is the more exuberant, outgoing. She's the
Hmm.
performer, like she does like theater and all of that. And I'm like, I'll build you a website sort of thing. I was more behind the scenes. So like, it was something that to this day, like, I have a bit about that. Like, nobody sees it coming. Nobody expects that of me, just because I'm
Right.
quiet, unassuming sort of thing. So my sister, like, when I decided I was going to do it, I told my friend that I had told, when we were 15, um, that, oh, I signed up for this course and we have a class, we have a show and all of this. And she was like, it's about fucking time. I've been waiting, like this, which was really touching. And so I had a very different mindset,
Yeah.
like when the showcase was approaching, because I didn't know many people here in Ottawa, but
Hmm.
like I invited everybody I knew. I invited. I was like, because I remember calling the club, and maybe I was talking to Jason. I was like, yes, I'm performing in the showcase on this date. I'd like 20 tickets, please. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I am sure.
Did they all
And
come?
they all came. Every single one came.
That's
And I
great.
said, I am prepared to eat the cost of the tickets, but they will come.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, because he warned me. He was like, if they don't show, you're on the hook for these tickets. I'm like, I
Hmm.
know, I'm ready for that. And they all showed up. They all showed up. And then my sister, during this interview, she was like, she came with my brother-in-law and then two other friends in the
Right.
car, and they were like strategizing, like, what do we do if she's not funny? What do we do? Like, what do we say? What do we do? Do we just leave? Like, what do we do if she sucks? Sort of thing. So I think they were pleasantly surprised that I didn't suck. I think they were very surprised. They were like, oh, thank God. But my sister was like, yeah, we were trying to strategize, like, what we would say to you, and she was, because my sister
Oh, you were
can't,
great.
yeah, and my sister can't do that. Like, my sister cannot tell you were good
Why?
if you weren't. Like, yeah, she can't do that. So she said, she'd have to leave. Like, she'd leave it up to the other three to say something, and I would know right off if she's not there.
Hmm.
So, for my sister to tell me I was good, I was like, okay, she doesn't usually do that. So, but I just found it funny that they were like strategizing, like, how, like, what do we do if she's bad?
That's good.
Which I
Well,
find so funny.
the first time I did it, my first set, I said I told two friends, and one of them was another chiropractor, and so he had invited a couple other sort of mutual contacts that we knew. So there were four of them that were there, and so the one guy who drove me, and then these three other guys, and so I found out, like, when I came back to the table, they're like, "Oh, you were great. You were so funny. We were cracking up the whole time." And then I found out, like, afterwards, that the three other guys were all like super high. Like, maybe that's why you were laughing, or was it really funny?
So I usually wrap up these conversations with a game I call Crazy Questions. Um,
Sure.
I have 249 questions,
All right.
and I'll ask you to pick a number between 1 and
Okay. We're not
249.
doing all
No, we're
249.
not doing all
Okay.
249. We might do two or three, depending on
Okay.
the question. So you'll just pick a number between 1 and 249, and I'll read the corresponding question. And
All
they
right.
range from like really funny to serious to deep to silly. Like, they run the gamut.
Okay. 71.
71. Okay. Okay. 71. Would you rather never sweat again, but not be more prone to heat stroke, or never feel cold again, but cold still physically affects you, i.e., you can freeze to death?
Never sweat again, but be prone to heat stroke.
But not be more prone to heat stroke.
Oh, yeah, I'd take that one.
Me too. Me too. I hate sweating. If
Yeah.
I could, yeah. If you could sweat without having a heat stroke, perfect.
Well, if you could sweat without it smelling and staining your clothes.
That too.
I mean, I guess we could, like, just walk around like dogs all day and pant.
Pant. Like, I wish I could pant instead of sweat. Like, I would do that. It might look weird, but To me, it's preferable to sweating. I'd rather pant. All right. Can you pick another number, please?
Sure, let's go with 117.
117. What is your most treasured possession?
I'm not really into possessions, so I don't know if there's a possession. I guess my dog.
Yeah.
Some people might say we don't possess or own our pets, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I am on the same wavelength. Yeah, because there's nothing physical that I'm like, oh, this is
yeah.
everything to me, But yeah, my pets are very important, you know. All right. Let's do another one.
Okay. 135.
135. Okay, 135. Have you ever sent someone a text you didn't mean to?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Nothing I mean, uh, because of my shakes, uh, sometimes, because I think that happened. Did I call you on Facebook
Oh
a
yes,
few months
yes,
ago?
yes, yes. Not too long ago. Yeah, through Messenger or
Yeah.
something.
And so sometimes I'll like type and I'll hit send by mistake, or I'll use voice to text and don't read it completely, and so sometimes it comes out as gibberish. So yes, but never anything like
Inappropriate
like
or
embarrassing that I regretted saying. Nothing like that.
okay,
Just mistakes.
okay, good, good. Okay, let's do another one.
One more.
Yeah,
Okay.
one more.
All right. 17.
17. Would you rather have unlimited international first class tickets or never have to pay for food at restaurants?
First class tickets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to travel anywhere.
Love to travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't done a lot of it recently.
Mm, mm.
I can cook for myself. I can't fly.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's true. Yeah, and just have the option to go wherever you want and
Yeah.
not have to worry about cost. Like that's
And being my height, first class,
yes, yes. Yeah, you need the leg room. Okay, well, thank you so much for
yeah, this was fun.
this was a lot of fun. This was a
I'm
lot of
glad
fun.
we got to do it. As you said,
Yeah,
we had a few reschedules, and actually
yes.
like uh like 5 minutes before we were going to start. It's good that you said we were going to delay it a few minutes.
Yeah, I was out, and so when I got um I made certain that I was like I gotta leave by a certain time because I've got something at 1.
Yeah.
And I parked my car, I think it was like 10 to 1, and that's when I texted you like I'm home, but I'll be a little bit late, just so I could like set up my
Yeah, no,
computer
that
and
was
everything.
good.
Yeah, and so it worked out perfectly. Thank you so much
Oh, my
for
pleasure. Yeah, it was fun. I
doing this.
enjoyed this.
This was a lot of fun, and I'd love to have you back some other time,
Sure.
like whenever you'd like to come back. And so I will include your social media handles, your Instagram handles
Good.
in
Yeah,
the
it'll be
show
a good
notes.
reminder for me what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and thank you again for taking the time to talk
Yeah.
to me today. This was a lot of fun. And like I said, I'd love to have you back.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks, Simone.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.